That is Charles the 12th. All right, he is. I was telling people if you grow up someday and marry your brother and then have a child with him, and then your children have children, and then your children have children, all with each other for about 300 years, you'll look like that man. Okay, what I'm going to do today for review is I'm going to run through hopefully all of chapter 20 or all of chapter 1 to see if I can get through all of it in 40 minutes. I always feel weird doing human geo review because I feel like it's all kind of simple and straightforward, like I'm teaching you nothing new. In fact, that's a good thing, because I am teaching you nothing new. If you sit here and you go, I learned nothing, he just went over stuff I already know, then good. All right, that means you're well prepared for the test, and we can start tackling some bigger things like CRQ and critical thinking and stuff like that. All right? But, so, we look at... This is dumb. We don't need to know any of this. There's two simple questions. And I know this seems so basic, but some of the questions you get on this test, you're going to get them and it's going to be like, what are the parts of geography that we need to consider, right? And you're just like, there's no way this question is that easy and that simplistic. And the truth is, a lot of time it is. Okay, by the way, if you're trying to write stuff down, more power to you. You will not have time to write everything down. I will email you this PowerPoint if it makes a difference. So, do what you want, whatever you got to do to remember, but keep that in mind. I don't know that it's going to help all that much. So if you get a question, think about what and why. That's ultimately what we're talking about for everything in geography, whether it's the environment, whether it's people, whether it's religion. Why are Muslims where they are, right? Why are the Japanese where they are with those cultures, those traditions, and ultimately what impact are they having on that region? That's what we focus on in this class for our year. Okay, here's the big one. They haven't had a CRQ on basic maps in a while. Okay. So, I'm going to say this every year and probably be wrong, but I feel like there's one coming here really, 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 really soon. Now, there's two ways to use a map, okay? Number one is as a reference tool, and that's the way we use it most of the time, all right? It's where you use it in your everyday life, where things actually are, okay? Spot on the map, there's the city, there's the town, there's the person, but in human geography, in class, what you're used to is that we are using it more as a communication tool. Okay, we are using it to spread an idea, one idea or another, one way or another. Okay, so you can spread the idea of where religion is, where the economy is, where development is. What have we been talking about today? Where highways are. For example, over here we have a population map of Ohio. Now, what does this follow? What do you see? Now that you've learned and you're in chapter 13, what do you see when you look at that map?
Urban areas.
What?
Urban areas.
You do see urban areas. What do you notice about the urban areas? Come on.
A lot of people cluster around where rivers and lakes are.
Yeah, where rivers and lakes are, especially up in Lake Erie, right? Cincinnati became big because we built canals from there to there. Get to the Ohio River, the Mississippi. What? Don't raise your hand. Just yell it out. Central Business District, no, we're too far away. Come on, what's the model we're looking at? Ohio's such a great example. Look at where Cleveland is. Look at the distance between Cleveland and Columbus and the distance between Columbus and Cincinnati. It's the central place theory. It's the very definition. Why is Columbus right there and not right there? We can argue it's because the middle so we can all travel. No, it's the central place theory, right? Look how far away Akron is from Cleveland. Now look how far away Dayton is from Cincinnati. It's the same distance. Central place theory, Novakovich. Yeah. All right. Now we looked at maps. Now this, I hope they don't test on something like this, but these were those Polynesian stick charts, right? And this is a map just like everything else. And what we can do with these maps is we can tell some facts, some theories about what the culture is. These shells are islands, and these sticks generally represent currents, right? These people, this is Polynesia, right? What do you know about Polynesia? It's a bunch of tiny little islands, right? Very tiny little islands. These people don't care about exact distance, nor do they care about exact direction. I bet you if we looked at a real map, this island would not be perfectly southeast of this island. And this island would not be perfectly south of this island, but according to the currents, according to the waves go, according to the easiest route to paddle from one island to another, there is a direct link between these two. This map is not about absolute location. It's not about perfect directions like we are used to. It's about what can they actually use. Okay? Why is it called French Polynesia?
Colonized by the French.
It's colonized by the French. Very good. More stick charts. There is not going to be anything on origins of cartography. It's not the key concepts for human geo. Scale. All right. They may ask you as stupid of a question as which scale is biggest and which scale is largest. Don't trip yourselves up. Don't do stupid mistakes on this. Okay. The way I remember it is the more people you would see in that picture, the larger the scale. So if you looked at a map of all of America, you would see a lot of people in there. Whereas if you looked at a map of just Cincinnati, you would see significantly less. Does anybody remember it a different way? How do you remember what's large scale and what's small scale?
Stuff is smaller on a small scale.
Don't use common sense here. Use my complicated method.
Okay.
Stuff is smaller on a small scale. Stuff is bigger on a big scale. Okay? Now keep in mind, you can do, this is a fraction, right? You can also have a ratio. You can also have a line scale. Beg and hope for those questions, okay? Just make sure you nail them when they come up, all right? It's all those stupid memory things. If you gotta remember this, Veal, if you screw this up, I'll kick you out of class. How do you remember that, Veal? Don't screw it up. Veal! How do you remember it? I dare you to be wrong. Ah! It's the stupidest way. You're going to sit there in an AP test. You're going to sit there in a college course with me that never eat soggy waffles, and people are going to laugh at you. Just think of the word west. It's the only one it works for in north, south, east, west. In the word west, the E is that way, the W is that way. Now, granted, that doesn't tell you which way is north and south, but if you can't figure on your own that north is up and south is down, just give up because you don't have a hope. But you use whatever works for you. Just feel free to be wrong, okay? All right. A projection is what a map is. The theory behind that is that if you put a light inside of a globe and turn the light on, and the shadows that were cast on the wall, that's the projection. That's what a map is. What is the issue with projections? It's not always right. In fact, it's never technically right. So, don't look at this is the slide. This, I could be wrong, guys. And the fact is, the College Board has microphones in all of our room. They listen to the tips we give you, and they make sure that they don't listen to them. But I think we have a question coming in the next couple years about maps, a good CRQ. So I would know these things. The problem with projections is that when you take something that's round and put it flat, there are problems. Can you tell me what those problems might be? Do you remember these? Yeah.
I forget the specific name, but for sailors and stuff, they would use it says an egg.
You're getting more. You're right. You're getting more complicated than we look for. What's the problem? What's the problem? Why do things look different on a globe than they look on a map? And how do they look different? Speak up! Stop being quiet! Come on, Anna. You're a loudmouth in class. You should know it now. Size! The size of continents is different, right? If we look at Australia compared to what Africa should look like, it's entirely different. Australia looks like it's the size of all of Africa. Greenland is the one that's always screwed up, right? When you look at the bottom and you see Antarctica is the entire bottom of the globe, that's wrong. The size is wrong. What else is screwed up? Somebody knows. Shape. The shape is wrong. Hey, buddy.
What's this?
This is Human Geo Review.
You got like 4 kids in here. Why are you yelling?
I might have told them that it was canceled. No, the louder you yell, the better they learn.
Oh.
Yeah.
What's up, baby cow?
Baby cow.
What if you give them some
Hey, do you teach that Greenland's actually ice and Iceland's actually green?
Yes.
All right.
Anyway, Greenland. Bottom is narrow and pointy. The top is really big and stupid. Right? That's a shape distortion. What else is screwed up? Distance. Distance between the continents. Good. What else is screwed up? There's at least one more. direction or angle, right? Direction or angle, which is fine. We usually don't care about that. Who would care about direction or angle? A sailor, right? The captain of a ship would care about what... He doesn't care what the north of Greenland looks like. What he cares about is what direction Greenland is from, I don't know, northern Europe. So let's see if we missed any. Shape, distance, size, direction. Good. Shape, distance, size, direction. The most common one we use, God, I already told you, is the Mercator projection, right? Why is it the most common projection that we use? Don't think too hard. Why is it most common? No, it's not the most accurate. It's one of the least accurate. But why do we use it? Why does your book have it? It's a square! Right? That's it. It's a square. What are the problems with the Mercator projection? Look at it. This is it. You don't need to memorize, guys. We're in review. Don't try to memorize a list of the problems of the Mercator projection. Try to memorize size, shape, distance, angles. And look at this map and think, what's wrong? Size is definitely wrong. Okay? The stuff in the center is smaller than it really is. The stuff at the edges is bigger than it really is. Antarctica is nowhere near that size. Antarctica is far smaller than South America, right? The shape is wrong, right? What's good at the Mercator projection besides the fact that it's square? The angles are accurate. Okay, the angles are accurate. But look, center small and tiny, edges super big and spread out. So this star is about that big down here, right? That is incredibly different. If you look at what Australia and Greenland should actually look like, this is it. But the Mercator projection is uber duper pooper wrong. We also see something like the good Homolzine projection. What does it do better? Size and shape, definitely. What does it do worse? Distance, direction, right? A sailor would not use this. That would be impossible to use. So you see that the angles are all off, but look at the sizes, right? The size of those dots are much more accurate. Again, you're never going to memorize that. They're going to ask you on the AP test, they will ask you about a projection we have never seen before. And you're going to have to kind of deduce what's wrong with it. Robinson projection is probably the best projection to look at. Reason being, it doesn't do anything terribly. It doesn't do anything terribly, but it doesn't do anything well, right? Doesn't do anything terribly, doesn't do anything well. All the continents fit in Pangea. This is my favorite one. This is probably the most accurate size and shape of the continents we have. But this map is almost impossible to use for any real purpose, right? Like, look at Greenland. Greenland's that. Here. Here. Okay? Other map scales, don't worry about it. It's pretty easy. Actually, real quick. This might load, it might not. I want to show you some other types of maps just to see their names. We know all this. We know all this. We know all this. I mean, look at this, guys. We didn't talk about that plate carry projection. What does it screw up? What does it screw up? It stretches, right? Size and the shape. Okay, good. Peter's projection, same thing. What is Peter's? Where is Peter screwed up? Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. The center is narrow and skinny, right? And the edges are flat. That's what we're trying to do. There's Robinson. There's the sinusoidal projection. That's just weird. Anyway, dot maps, isoline maps. You don't need to memorize all these names, but you might be exposed to them. And here's the big thing I want to show you. If they ask you why a map lies, think about this. Skip. This map shows the total number of African Americans per state. What does that make it look like? Texas is filled with blacks, Florida is filled with blacks, Illinois, New York, right? But if we look at maps that are more accurate, that are done by county, what are you going to see? Clustered in urban areas. Let's look at a map there. This is percentage of African Americans living across the U.S., but even this lies. What's the problem with using percentage? 1 of 2 is 50%. 1 million of 10 million is 10%. Right? But those numbers are wildly different. Here is the actual numbers. Right? This is how maps can lie. The accuracy of maps is very, 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 very important. All right. So, geographic grid. Does that make sense? How do you memorize latitude and longitude? This is the only nerdy one. How do you memorize latitude and longitude? Go ahead. You redeem yourself. How do you know the difference? Longitude. That doesn't help. Whatever works for you. I do the dorky thing. Longitude, long. Look at your mouth. Long, longitude. Right, your mouth, your jaw goes down. Long, latitude. Longitude, latitude. That's fine. Longitude's up and down. Okay. Now, who invented longitude, latitude? Who invented it? Well, let me ask you this. When do we really need longitude, latitude? When we are sailing, when we are exploring. Who are the best sailors, explorers? First guys in Portugal is Spanish, but we don't worry about that. Who's most famous? Who conquers the globe? Christopher Columbus did not conquer the globe. The British conquered the globe. Thank you. The sun never sets on the British Empire, right? So, when they had to come up with 0, they said, all right, let's put 0 right through Great Britain. That's the only reason. They invented it. They get to have it. That's the prime meridian. Right there. What's on the other side? What do we call it? International date line. Why is that a smart place for the international date line? What's in the Pacific? If I pointed to a random spot in the Pacific, what would you probably see? Thank you. Nothing. There's nothing over there. The other side of that is latitude or parallels. All right? These things can be on there. Usually not. I hope you know the equators in the center, right? Tropic of Cancer, Tropic of Capricorn. In here is going to be your tropic region and your deserts. That is where the sun rays are most direct most of the time. So that's where. How do you remember? Which one is north and which one is south? Cancer's more important, right? Cancer we know. Cancer we know. So Cancer's more important. It's on top. Okay. So what do we have up here? We have prime meridian right here. We have the prime meridian, international date line, North Pole, South Pole, Tropic of Cancer, equator, Capricorn. What is this and what is this? 60 degrees north and 60 degrees south. If you look at the top of the globe and you're staring at the North Pole, around the North Pole is what?
Arctic Circle.
The Arctic Circle. Around the South Pole is the what? What's the Antarctic Circle?
Is that a thing?
No! Well, yeah, it is. Right there. Antarctic Circle. Time zones. Why do we have time zones? Because it makes sense. Time zones, it's fun to look back at some of this stuff with the eyes of Chapter 12 and Chapter 13, right? Most of the time goes up and down. Now, it zigzags back and forth here a couple times in America. Why doesn't it zigzag much like that in Canada? That's a good AP Human Geo question. Good job, Mr. Bruce. That's a good question. Why are they straight here and they zigzag here? What would the purpose be? She doesn't even know where she is right now. She's getting more answers than you fools. Right? What do we have a lot of and they don't? People, right? In fact, most of Canada lives south of Seattle. Most of Canada lives south of our northernmost point, okay? So here, there's nobody. There's like 11 people, 2 Eskimos and a hobo right there and right there. There's no reason to move the lines back and forth. Just follow the grid line straight up and down. You come down a place like this, right? Cut Kentucky right in half because there's a city here and there's a city here. You know what those cities are? Louisville, Lexington, right? Or Lexington, Louisville, right? We go down, down, down. Cut Florida off right here to Panhandle. That's why you hate going, what's on this side of Florida for vacation? Is Destin over there? Destin's weird because it's 1 hour off, right? You'd rather go to Naples where it's there are more old people, but it's on the same time zone. Look at this. Remember talking about this? What's right here? Chicago. What's right here?
That's
Gary, Indiana. What's in Gary, Indiana?
all the manufacturing.
All the manufacturing. Why on God's green earth do you want manufacturing here? It would make a lot more sense to have manufacturing in Chicago. That's where the people are. That's where the trains are. But it's...
Too expensive.
How do you know that?
Because,
What model of human geo do you apply? Anna? Nah, central place. It's a tough one. Land rent theory, right? Closer you get to the center, the more expensive land gets. So you go to Gary, Indiana, right? What is there in Gary, Indiana, except for manufacturing? Nothing, right? There's 2 gas stations and an old person home. What? The Music Man is in Gary, Indiana. Thank you. As helpful as ever, okay? So, when they start dividing up the timelines, that's a great human geo question. Why is this area on this timeline? Because most of this manufacturing goes with Chicago, so they want to be on that timeline. Okay? Any other questions? Good? Crap. All right, GIS systems. GIS systems is usually basically fancy Google Earth. Remote sensing is a fun way of saying they take pictures with satellites. Who uses GIS systems? Give me an example. Why are some of you going to use GIS systems? Where you can apply different layers, right? Different layers to a map. We used it in our services thing, right? Let's say you're in charge of Kroger, right? What do you use GIS for? Where are you going to put the next one, right? What are you going to look for in an area? You're going to bring up a map of Southern or Cincinnati, and you can say, "Where do I want to build my next Kroger?" What are you going to look? What are you going to search for? Population. What else? Competitors. Right? Where are the Walmarts? I don't want to build right next to a Walmart. What else?
How expensive the land is.
How expensive the land is. Sure. What else? You want to build it in Clifton or Anderson? Why? Income. Right? Who's got more money? Okay. Anderson's going to be the largest Kroger in the world again here pretty soon. They're building that extension. You know that extension? What are they going to put in that extension of Kroger? With Kroger?
Food delivery.
They are going to have food delivery there because we're all lazy and we don't want to get out of our cars. What else are they going to have? What's the largest growing section of Kroger? It's not the pharmacy, though there is a growing selection of drugs at Kroger. The largest growing section in Kroger is organic, okay? Why are they going to expand their organic section? Is it because they're hippies and they hate giving drugs to animals? No! They want to make money. They're doing it because their GIS system shows that there's a lot of people in Anderson that are buying into the organic phrase and trying to get healthy food and all this other junk. They have food pickup. So you order online, drive through a drive-through window, they hand you a bag with everything in it. With their clothes. All right. Why are each points in on the Earth unique? Here's the big thing. We know what a toponym is. That's a place name. Good. Why are we called Cincinnati? Roman Cincinnatus. Site. Site is important. Site is the physical characteristics of the place. What are the physical characteristics of Cincinnati that are important? We're by a river, right? What else? When we settled here, what was the geographic makeup of Cincinnati? We're hilly, right? How many hills? How many hills do we have? 7. Who else has 7 hills? 7 Hills School is named for the 7 hills of Cincinnati. Cincinnati had 7 big hills. What are some of the 7 big hills? Mount Adams. What else? Mount Carmel. What else? Mount Washington. Oh, it all makes sense now. Where else in the world did we find 7 hills? The place Romulus and Remus settled. They were twins. Oh my God! They were twins raised by a she-wolf. They got in a fight one day. They tried to found a city, and Romulus and Remus got in a fight one day. Who won? Romulus, because he named the city Rome. That's why we're Cincinnatus. Named it. God, you guys suck. All right. Site is a physical characteristic. We talk about Boston, right? Boston's our oldest city. It's our medieval city, right? They used to be tiny little bit, but they dumped a lot of trash and dirt around here to expand their land. They actually physically changed their site, which is pretty darn impressive, really. All right, situation. Situation is what? How do your relationship to other areas, okay? So Cincinnati is along the Ohio River. Why is the Ohio River so important? Connects to the Mississippi. Where does the Mississippi go? Gulf of Mexico. It goes everywhere. So we're closer to New Orleans than we are to North Dakota. Right? Does that make sense? Right? What can we apply to prove my point that we are closer to Louisiana than we are to North Dakota? Yes? What? The gravity model. The river's like a highway. We're actually closer together because the space-time compression. See? You guys are smart. I like you guys. You can stay. Talked a lot about the railroads, right? Cincinnati used to be big in the early 1800s, but my friend Craig at Over the Rhine taught me that when we started to use railroads instead of canals, we shifted from Cincinnati to what major city? Chicago. Very good. Sense of place. Ooh, big one right here. Let's finish up. Sense of place is where do you feel like you are? Okay? Where do you feel like you are? What's a formal region, a uniform region? They have some kind of common characteristics. What are some examples? These are not set in stone. Right? So what do you think? What are the examples? Formal regions.
The South.
Not necessarily. I think you can argue better for others, but sure, you can get formal regions. Formal regions are usually a place, the best way to say it, write this down if you take notes and you need to remember it on a test. Go for laws. You can argue for climates, you can argue for language, but most of the time a formal or uniform region, you can make a strong argument that any place that follows the same laws from the same government is going to be a part of a formal region. So if you ask what formal region you're a part of, just say Ohio. Why? Because you all follow the laws made by Governor Kasich, and the Ohio legislature. Right? Right. That's what a formal region is. There's a lot of other stuff to it, but that should get you through it. Right? Functional nodal region is a lot better and easier to understand. When you think of a nodal region, you should think of a node. Somebody describe a nodal region. There's a point, and everybody's attracted to that point. Right? Goes along with centripetal force when we talk about politics, right? Best example of a nodal region. What do you got?
Would that be like sports? Could you use sports?
Yep. I would use the Cincinnati Reds, right? Why are the Cincinnati Reds one of the most popular teams in the U.S.? It's not because we're the first. Nobody cares about it being the first unless you're in Cincinnati.
Because we have Indiana and
What's the competition for the Reds, right? There's Indianapolis. They're going to be Reds fans. Columbus is split, right, between us and Cleveland. Who does Kentucky cheer for, right? The Reds. Okay. If you're going to become a hockey fan, who are you going to follow? No, real NHL, real hockey fan. The Columbus Blue Jackets are the closest. You'll find those. There's no competition. Why else? The Reds. Where do you, if you want to turn on the Reds game, what do you turn on? Well, if you want to turn on a Reds game on a radio, what do you turn on? What station? Come on. All your dads listen to it, right? 700 WW. Why does that help the Reds? And why is that the perfect example of a nodal region? 700 WW is the single. You know what the nickname of 700 WW is? Come on. Go home, turn on the AM radio, and listen to some news. They call themselves the big one. The reason they call themselves the big one is because they are literally, by definition, by power, by measure, the largest AM radio station in the world is right here in Cincinnati, Ohio. So a lot of people can turn on the Reds games and listen. Next time you really want to have a wild time, about 12:30 at night, maybe 1 o'clock, 700 WLW boosts its signal and becomes the, may ever listen to the radio late at night? Gets a little crazy. They become, I swear to God, turn them on. Next time you're up stupid late, turn them on. They become America's largest trucking network. And if you are in the Appalachian Mountains or west, you can hear them. People in North Dakota can hear 700 WLW because their signal's so strong. Right? Technically, if you have metal fillings at night, you can hear WLW in your skull. Believe it or not, look it up. Okay? That's a functional region. Here is the Reds. The most popular baseball team in the MLB is the Braves. You'd think it'd be New York or Boston, right? But it's not. Because look at the Atlanta's network. They have less competition than even the Reds. There's nobody there. That is a nodal region. Right? There's Reds country. Right? So, probably gonna yell at me to
Attention,
shut
Beth
up.
Gifford, if you're still in the building, could you call...
Vernacular region is a terrible name. It should be perceptual region. I like that one a lot more.
Thank you.
This is what you perceive your region to be. This, the best example for this is the South, right? What is the South? What's one way to define what the South is?
Y'all.
Religion. What's the religion in the South? Baptists, right? Usually some form of Protestant. So you see some Methodists down here. Whereas in Cincinnati, you see a lot more of what religion? Catholic, Roman Catholic, right? How else can you define the South? NASCAR, sure. It's not bad. You look at the number of NASCAR races down there, right? You can go by education, obesity. The best one, you define the Civil War, but all those lines are different, right? We are actually terrible at defining the South. You know why we, right here, are terrible at defining the South? Because a lot of times, we are in the South, right? Guys, we're basically Kentucky to the rest of the world. You know that, right? Right? We're in the y'all region. You can act like we're not, but we like freaking chili on spaghetti. We're hillbillies, guys. I hate to break it to you. We're hillbillies. Okay? We fit right in. Right? Technically, we're on the other side of the Underground Railroad, but... That's Honey Boo Boo. Come on. All right. Culture, what people care about, language, religion. I mean, we'll talk about this. Ethnicity, this is more of an intro. All right, we're almost there. Spatial. Globalization, we know what globalization is, right? The bringing people together, bringing space-time compression, right? The fact that we are closer together than ever. You are physically distant from Africa, but because of the internet, because of television, because of radio, you are really closer than ever. Americanization is a great word to know somewhere in the back of your head. You can argue Americanization is globalization historically, but now it is changing. Okay? Distribution, density, concentration, clustered. I feel like you guys should know this stuff, and I'd be wasting your time to go over it. We actually talked about all this in class today, didn't we? Right? That's Manhattan. This is DC, right? The layout. Yeah. This is Rome, where Romulus lived. It's fine. They're scared of me. I'm aggressive. I haven't hit anybody though, so I'm good. We know what diffusion is. Oh, there! I want to do diffusion real quick before we're done. Relocation diffusion. What's relocation diffusion yet? From physical movement, from person to person. The example I used in the book. You guys have an example of relocation diffusion? AIDS, right? It's a good example. The other one I'll use, maybe a happier one, is the euro. Right? The euro is the money in Europe, right, that they introduced in the early 2000s. The only way that the physical money moves is from pocket to pocket, from pocket to cash registers. Then they get it exchanged. That's the only way that it spreads throughout. Next up is expansion diffusion. There's a couple different ways this happened. This is an example of hierarchical diffusion, right? The only way I want you to think of that is the CEO from a company. The CEO of McDonald's calls up the McDonald's all over the place. Well, McDonald's might not be a good example because that goes in with something else. Who cares? We'll say it anyway. And says, hey, I want you to start serving lamb. Right? You guys ever had lamb? Not bad. Yeah. Show some class, guys. Get some lamb. All right. Then McDonald's all over the world will start showing lamb, and some people would start to like it. Contagious diffusion. Spreads like a wave, spreads out in a circle. That's contagious diffusion. That is the one, a big star next to it when you study contagious diffusion, because that is the one they're going to ask you about. Because of the internet, this is the one that matters more than anything. Let's see if we can get through everything else. Stimulus diffusion is the last one. Distance decay, we know. Space-time compression, unequal access, three main hearts. New York, Tokyo, and London are the three main hearts of culture. If you had to add a fourth city, what would you add and why?
Would you add
Japan,
Japan?
Tokyo's Japan.
Tokyo.
What would you add and why? Tokyo's already in there. London, New York, London, Tokyo. If you had to add a new hearth, 2012 today, or 2016 today,
Mexico City.
you could do Mexico City, right? Why? Weak answer. Somebody else. Where would you? I already picked a new enough. In the back. What city? What would you make the next world city?
I don't know.
No! I don't think Los Angeles is a good answer because New York's already there, right? Somebody else. Do you know what I'm getting at? We'll say the answer and you'll know. What do you think? Guess a city in the world. You can be wrong 1,000 times. It's okay. No, not Chicago. Guys, think about how the world's changed in the last 50 years. Okay? Where should the new hearth be? Where should one of the new hearths be? Maybe Africa, right? Why? There's none there, and there's so many people. Where else are there a lot of people? Asia, right? China, India. You could argue Shanghai, even though it's right next to Tokyo. Could you make a pretty strong argument that that's a hearth of the world? Because that controls China or Beijing. Right? In Africa, what city would you pick in Africa? You could pick Johannesburg, because South Africa is the most powerful, right? But I don't know. It's a good question. Do you see the point I'm making? Not that your answers are wrong. I don't care what country, what city you pick, as long as you pick one and you can explain to me why. I would go somewhere in Asia, though, simply because of population. Development gap. Oh, and then finally, don't study this. If they ask you a question about renewable resources, if they ask you a question about sustainability and all this other, you can answer it right now, right? Because you know that we are increasing at this rate and we are using a lot more resources. They're not going to ask you about the freaking biotic system and the abiotic system. It's simply put, not going to happen. Okay? Questions, comments, concerns? I hope you learned something today. If you didn't, I hate you. But if you did, congratulations. Get out of here, guys. 3 o'clock. Go home. Next review in my Human Geo will not be tomorrow. It'll be next week. I think Cheney's doing one tomorrow.
Yeah,
I think he is. He might do the same stuff. He might do something different. I will try to. I'm no guarantees. Cheney will not. I cannot. You're right. I can't. Next week I should be able to do them after school. Please make sure I announce that I can do them after school if I do them after school. I said do.